Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you are listening to Watch This List. Today is an historic event where I have Jeff Boggess from Hard Ticket as my guest, and it has been a long time coming, Jeff. I feel like you have known about my podcast for quite some time, and you were never on it.
I've known about your podcast for years, Amy. It's been years. Years. My co-host of Hard Ticket, Tristan Moore, he was on years ago. He did an episode on comfort watches, and I think one on The Last Jedi as well. Right. And as a good friend, I listened, and I was like, this is awesome. I got to meet this person. And then years went by, Amy.
I know, and you didn't do anything. I don't really understand. Because Tristan's like, oh, my friend Jeff is like such a fan. And I'm like, I don't know who this person is. Does he even follow me? Like, who is he?
Oh, I followed.
Oh, yeah. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe if I get on the show, then Jeff will get on my show. So that's how that went.
Right. Everything paid off. It's all been a strategic crossover intersection. And this is finally the reward that we're
I know.
Right
I'm almost nervous. I'm so excited about this. and also we, as a sort of like tribute to the structure of Hard Ticket, I have never done a double feature for a series in which there's only one film at a time. But today is the exception, folks. We are doing not one, but two Noah Baumbach movies. And I don't even really like Noah Baumbach movies. So this is actually very strange that I would be doing this. But I blame Jeff because he chose it.
Well, you suggested the Hard Ticket thing. And then you said you loved both of these movies.
No, I did not say that. And you picked Frances Ha. And then I didn't have the heart to tell you that I actually hated that movie.
What? You hate Frances? What the hell? Oh my God. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, this is like a trap. Holy crap. Oh my God.
I wanted to save the revelation to when we were actually recording so that I could get your genuine. But yes, when I first saw Frances Ha, I abhorred it. I thought it was the most pretentious.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, oh my God. And then you were like, oh, let's do Frances Ha. And I was like, just my heart sank.
But you acted so excited when I said that too. You were like, Jeff, I'm all in. Let's do it. I love it. So, wow. Okay. This is great.
This is really
what the hell? I am so surprised. But you said the first time you watched it, you abhorred it, and now you've rewatched it. And do you like it less? Do you like it more?
See, this is, and maybe I also should have structured this episode where you're the host and you're on the left side of the screen, because I have a feeling that we're going to be equally asking each other questions.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So what we did was Jeff chose Frances Ha. And then in homage to Hard Ticket, I was like, let's pick another one. And then I suggested While We're Young. I think maybe the reason I suggested it is because I'm watching Girls right now. And Adam Driver is standing out to me.
You can't watch Girls and then say you hate Frances Ha, right? It's like...
They're so similar.
They're the same thing, Amy.
It's something... Okay, let's start out by asking this.
Okay.
How many Noah Baumbach movies have you seen?
I have seen these two.
Okay.
I saw the Meyerowitz stories.
Uh-huh.
That's probably my least favorite of his.
That's my favorite.
Okay, Amy. Well, we can go ahead and we can end it now if you want. Like, it's totally fine. I've seen Marriage Story. I really like the Marriage Story.
I hate it.
I don't know what's happening right
We
now.
really should do that. I should do this with every single guest where we just, but this is amazing. Keep going.
In terms of what he's written as well, I think he co-wrote on the Royal Tenenbaums, I'm pretty sure.
And Barbie.
And I've seen both of those.
Sure.
Yeah. Kind of mixed on Barbie. I liked it a lot when it came out, but every time I saw it, it went down in my estimation.
Uh-huh.
Baumbach is like, I'm not like a diehard Baumbach guy either. I think his stuff, like if you call it pretentious, I'm not really going to argue with it because it's pretty objectively, but what does that word mean anyway, man? Because hipster culture is so big, especially in the two movies we're talking about today. And that's like the pinnacle of pretension right there.
I have seen 12 of his movies and he's only made 14.
I was going to say, I didn't realize he made that many. Holy crap.
The only ones I haven't seen are White Noise and something he made like in a long, long, long time ago, like Highball or something like that. It was very old. but everything else I've seen and I don't even like him. Like it's so strange that I think I just kept trying, you know. But Jay Kelly, I don't know, Meyerowitz I think was my favorite besides Squid and the Whale, but he's definitely like a brand of something. And I can see a lot of influences, but he still kind of grates me, you know.
There's like almost like a film student aspect to a lot of his stuff. Like what I didn't like about the Meyerowitz stories was the way it was so directly segmented and chaptered, and it would sometimes cut off like in the middle of a sentence, and I'd be like, wow, a film student would feel really clever about that right now.
The drama. That's what I felt in the drama, where it's like, this is so film artsy, fartsy.
That's fair.
I've seen Bergman movies.
Yeah. And well, you get Frances Ha in Black and White, which I think immediately that sets off a flag. But, you know, like, are you going to call Clerks pretentious? Clerks is like, it's because they didn't want to do color grading on it. And there is an element of Frances Ha that's so kind of ragtag that they shot it on a Canon 5D. Like, that is such a low quality camera, and yet the film looks amazing. So I got to give it props to stuff like that.
Well, I think it's, what is it, like influences like Manhattan obviously is one, Woody Allen's Manhattan, and then French New Wave. They definitely said, I read that Greta Gerwig was saying that Francis was based on Johnny in Naked. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Naked. Oh, it's so good. Okay. Well, that character is crazy and constantly just spouting out. Really, most of my notes from Frances Ha were just quotes.
But mine
I
too,
make love.
probably.
You know, like I literally was like, I almost wish I could like capture her essence and like do it right now. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, Gerwig's performance as Frances is like, so the way that she speaks is like, all of my thoughts are in the air, and I breathe them in, and they come through my mouth, and I just channel them that way. And I like it. I like her performance. I think it's distinct. I love her monologue about the thing you have with that special person. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's my favorite performance of hers. I forgot about White Noise. I have seen White Noise. That is definitely my least favorite Baumbach.
Another driver. God. Mm-hmm. He's just in everything.
Yeah, he's a little more sympathetic in that one, though. But he plays a great, smug little asshole. Like he really does. He's great at it.
Nobody does it quite like Adam. And girls as well. Mm-hmm. No, I think it's also, it's not just like, because I was trying to think, okay, is Frances Ha, okay, While We're Young feels more midlife crisis to me. Frances Ha feels like adult child. Like a kind of Arrested Development, but not midlife crisis. How would you distinguish between those two things?
Yes, I think they're definitely sequential, which is interesting because While We're Young only came out like a year after Frances Ha, too.
2012 and 2014.
Yes, so you have the hipsters in Frances Ha, and they are like hipsters. But you get like a pretty three-dimensional view of them as characters. You don't condemn them. There's a few lines in there that you're kind of like, oh, this is like the dialogue insists upon itself in the same way the characters insist that their lifestyles insist upon themselves too.
Okay.
But then you get While We're Young, where you have that Adam Driver character who's talking about like, oh, you want to buy a new desk? Let's just go to the lumber yard and we'll build one. Yeah, like, and he lives in this big, it's like a abandoned industrial building that he's just turned into his artist's cave, and like he feels very conscious, or he's written very consciously of kind of poking at this lifestyle in a way that Frances Ha embraces it a little bit more, I would say.
Well, and I think there's an authenticity to Frances Ha that is not, obviously Adam Driver and Amanda Seyfried in While We're Young are kind of posers, right? I mean, they're not really, I don't feel that they're genuinely, whereas Frances cannot help but be herself at all. Like, she can't even leave a room without getting, it takes her forever to leave a room. And so she has all these like quirks where it's like, nobody would like put this upon themselves if it weren't avoidable, if it weren't unavoidable, Like, she has to be that way.
Yeah, she's genuine, like you're saying. At all times, she doesn't feel like she's playing a part. And anytime you see her lie, it kind of hurts you a little bit to see her being disingenuous, because while she's in Paris, she's like,
oh my gosh,
telling her friend Sophie how good her life is, where she is like more aimless than ever. And but that's another thing with Frances Ha is like, you start out the film with these two girls who are so close. They are kindred spirits. They are soulmates, platonic soulmates. And as they drift apart, they start to know each other less, but they still claim that they know everything about each other. And you kind of see them, you see them lie, and you see the facade start to slip. And that happens as you get further away. And that's something that I can relate to in real life. I had a lot of really close friends when I was younger, especially. And as I've gotten older, I don't see them as much. And as good of friends as we were, and we still are, we could pick up and reconnect. Like, you miss details the more time you spend apart from one another. Like, part of the reason I wanted to do Frances Ha for this podcast is because the thought occurred to me like last week that Frances Ha is 27. I am also 27. And I watched Frances Ha for the first time years ago and had my thoughts about it then. And here I am at 27. I was like, I want to rewatch this and see how much I relate to it. Do I relate more or less to Frances as at her age? And
you do or you don't? What's the verdict?
I relate to Frances a little bit less, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Because a lot of criticism I see towards this movie is directed at her as a character. And people say she's too old to be as immature as she is within the context of the story. I've seen people say that about her. The scene in particular that stuck out to me on the first watch was when she and Sophie argue in the bathroom, and she yells at her, she snaps, and she says, "Don't treat me like your 3-hour brunch friend."
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, yeah, you tell her, Frances. Like, you guys have something, and she's acting like it's not there. On this rewatch, it was apparent to me that Frances was not justified exactly in saying it, at least in that moment, in that way. She's kind of like, Frances is just grasping at everything. She doesn't feel like she's standing on any solid ground. And of course I can relate to that. I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to it. It's just the specifics of her lifestyle that a lot of people can't get past, I think.
Well, one thought I have is that I don't actually feel like she approaches Sophie as a friendship. It's really feels like a relationship. Like the way that she acts every time someone brings up Sophie, she's like, what is she doing? Where is she? What did you say, Sophie? That feels very much like a romantic relationship breakup to me, as opposed to a friendship. So it has a dynamic, in my opinion, of imbalance, where it's like she was dumped, and so she constantly wants to hear about what's going on in the other person's life, but then Sophie could care less, because Sophie could call her anytime, and she doesn't. So It feels very there. It also kind of felt like Toy Story 2 to me, like with the doll, with Jessie.
With Jessie and her previous owner. Yes. And that's, that's not a relationship in the same sense that it's like a romantic relationship.
But both I thought of outgrowing your toy, like outgrowing your, and then you're like, why don't you love me as much as you used to? And then also how someone acts when they're dumped. Those are the two things that kept like circling in my mind about it.
No,
versus a platonic friendship that's equal.
Yes. And what you're saying about imbalance is very apparent. And at the beginning of the movie, we understand that Frances uses Sophie as an excuse to shirk responsibility in her own life because her boyfriend wants her to move in with her. And she's like,
oh my gosh, that scene.
Yeah. Because she starts in an actual romantic.
And she's like, yeah, I'll do it. And then she's like, actually, no, I won't at all. Like it goes from like hard, like yes to hard pass, like within like 5 minutes.
She clearly doesn't want to do it, but she doesn't say that. She says, oh, well, I live with Sophie, so I can't do that to her. I have a
lease and like, yeah.
And then Sophie's the one to break their lease because she's just like, oh, exactly. We never talked about it. So Frances is leaning on Sophie in a way. She's like a security. Like it's funny because like, she's like the toy that gets outgrown.
Exactly.
There's a little, but, and you know what? In While We're Young, we have that with Ben Stiller and his documentary. That is his excuse to never do anything because Ben Stiller and Naomi Watts, Cornelia and Josh, they talk all the time about, all of our friends are having kids. we don't have kids and we have the freedom to do whatever we want. We can go to Paris. Paris is this like thing,
just like Francis did.
Yeah, it's like like a lighthouse. It's the guiding. Like it takes that's the beacon of freedom right there. But they never go because Josh has his own excuses. Like at the end of the day, both of these movies deal with characters who mask their own insecurities, their own perceived failings as protagonists, and project them onto other things.
I think there's also an element, like you were saying, about people who think they're too old to be grappling with this. I feel like there's also an element you told, like when you were like, we're going to talk about ageism. It's kind of like this thing of like, we're supposed to be at certain points, age marks. And if we're not there, then everyone's just like super harsh. One element that stood out to me is like how messy Frances is. And I found myself being kind of like parental towards her, watching her like, make your bed, Frances, is how I felt. Versus like, is it okay for someone to be messy their whole lives? Why don't we feel like that's okay? What is this like symbolic of? That someone is just messy because she's messy the whole time. And I don't know that that's necessarily because she's not grown up. It's also because like we expect that people grow out of things, and maybe we shouldn't expect that, and it's not actually, it doesn't have a deeper meaning other than she's messy.
I think it's essential that Frances brings order and balance to her life when she pursues art. That is how she ends the movie. She choreographs a whole show, and it's sort of on the periphery throughout when she's not prioritizing it because she's thinking about money a lot of the time and how she can give back to the company. But art is a way to make sense of imbalance and messes, really. And that's what she does with it. She and same with While We're Young. Like, we have Ben Stiller, who is expressing himself through media and documentary, and there's this whole conversation about, should documentary actually be about you?
Personal.
Yeah. And he ultimately, he says that he thinks it should be. Like, you can't filter yourself out of it. But then you see Adam Driver's character take that to the extreme where he actually just makes it about himself. So there's stages of that. But I do think in both of these movies, and it's appropriate that Noah Baumbach, who is a filmmaker, is writing characters who are artistically minded, artistically oriented. Yeah. It's just what filmmakers do. It's art itself. So,
well, and I think I don't know if you've seen Crimes and Misdemeanors, the film.
No.
Okay. There's Woody Allen is basically the Ben Stiller character in that movie. And he is doing a documentary with a guy that looks exactly like this guy in this movie. And the guy is talking about the meaning of life and everything. And so this was like, I was like, no way that was an accident. I think they even had a similar name. But the point is that he also never finishes it. He also records way too much. It's also like the scene where he pitches it to that guy where it's like, well, he is actually kind of boring and actually no one would really want to listen to him for very long. And then you're like, so I feel like there's an aimlessness in their like intentionality and the ways that they have discipline. They actually there's a like inherent frustration of like ambition that neither of them really, I feel like, reach. Frances obviously does a little bit more, but it is kind of hard to watch where you're like, these people have obviously talent and passion, but it's almost like they're stopping themselves.
Well, they stop themselves, but they blame the world around them. Like they project that, like Josh cannot describe what his documentary is about. Anytime somebody asks him, he's like, "Oh, it's about the American experience and about the industrial."
It's really about the industrial. Yeah, it's really a political thing, commentary on our government and right.
Yeah, and there's a rivalry in both of these movies too. A very subdued. It's a lot more prominent in While We're Young because Josh disagrees with how Adam Driver's character like conducts his work. But there's also a scene in Frances Ha where Sophie is drunk and she's just kind of blabbing to Frances and she's like, "I always felt so competitive with you." And I'm like, I think that is so important to their relationship. No matter how close they got, And especially as you get further from somebody, like that competitive aspect can take over. You can get mad at somebody for not reaching out to you, and you can get frustrated with the power imbalance, or you can focus on yourself, which is probably what that other person is doing, and let it happen naturally. You just got to trust that the connection is that strong.
Well, and I think it's also an interesting commentary on a bunch of different types of relationships, because like my buddy Michael was writing in his review about how it shows platonic relationships with men and women, because obviously she's friends with, what's the guy's name? The roommate. It's not Adam Driver, but the other guy.
Right.
She's like, they're not where he always calls her undateable and everything. And you get the feeling that he likes her, but like they treat that very, very realistically. And I felt like it was very nuanced. Some of the funniest lines are when he sees her when he's walking with his girlfriend, and she's like, "Who's this?" And he's like, "We were married." And they say lots of like crazy, or she's like, "I have to meet with Colleen tomorrow," and the girl's like, "I don't know you." Like that whole scene. Yeah. And he's like, "All right, well, bye." There's like I don't know. There's a Hal Hartley quality to that scene that I really like. But that guy and her have a very, I don't know. They have an interesting relationship that I appreciate.
Yeah, they're kind of teased that they could be romantic in the future.
But she's kind of like,
yeah, it's like it doesn't matter exactly. In the context of the story, this chunk of her life that we see, like, I think it's very intentional that romance isn't explicitly a factor, because it's like, in so many coming of age or rom-coms or just romance films, like romance is the end all be all. And the thing with, Noah Baumbach movies in general is kind of like life continues. It's slice of life, mumblecore kind of stuff. Yeah. And I like their dynamic as well. So Amy,
here we go.
What's your big hang up with Frances Ha? Is it just too insufferable? What is it exactly?
Well, watching that and then watching While We're Young made Frances Ha look a lot better.
Ooh.
So I was like, While We're Young was like, it made self-improvement seem insufferable.
Really?
Where you're just like, and maybe it's because I'm closer in age now to like Ben and Naomi than I am to Frances, that I feel kind of triggered at the idea that I would behave in that fashion, where it's like I need to feel young, like the hip hop dancing and the hats and the like ayahuasca. It feels so desperate. And I found myself like, especially While We're Young, I was just like, why can't you just embrace where you're at? Like the parents do, the parents with the kid. They still have fun and they still have parties, but they're also responsible. So there's something about the desperation that I feel is in both movies of characters trying to be someone else. And I just see like it's so much more valuable if they would just accept where they are in life and like embrace it.
Maybe you're just not on the verge of a midlife crisis, Amy.
Maybe I've already had it and I'm done and I'm over it.
Yeah,
I already got my hat.
That's what While We're Young is. It is just a midlife crisis. Like the thing about Cornelia and Josh is that they have aged just naturally up until this point. You've got my favorite scene in While We're Young is, well, it's a sequence of like the Adam Driver character going through all of his physical media. He's got the vinyl records that he's, playing, and he's got the VHS and the VCR. Okay. And then you've got Ben Stiller streaming and listening to CDs and whatever was like contemporary. So he has felt no need to embrace the past, because as society progresses, as technology specifically progresses, like it does so in order to improve the user experience.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got to talk about hipsters, Amy, because like I have a lot to say.
Go for it. I was just about after your feedback, your rant. I just want to talk about the commercial in the car, because there's a whole thing to me that's very key, I think, about the commercial. Like when they talk about the one that he grew up with and the one that he uses. But go for it. Hipsters.
Yeah, okay. So
Hipsters 101 with Josh.
Hipsters 101. I think hipsters, I think around the time of Frances Ha, that was like peak hipster culture, especially in New York City. And I think it's important to recognize that it's like a distinctly millennial thing, hipsterism specifically.
Yes.
And it's because, like, if you talk about aging naturally, what was available to you in your youth and as you get older, millennials were the first generation to kind of have access to everything through early internet. And they might not have recognized it, but the ones who did, I think, kind of became hipsters. They took all styles and trends and media from the past and made it into their identity.
Do you think it's nostalgia when you say that, or do you think it's snobbery?
I think it's the same as what it is now. It's an attempt to just have an identity based on stuff.
Okay.
But why it's specifically a millennial thing and not a Gen Z thing is because me, as a 27-year-old, I am Gen Z, but I'm like right there on the cusp. I see people my age and a few years younger who, especially like younger girls who are college age, and they go to the thrift stores and they buy clothes and dress like Stevie Nicks. And that is not countercultural anymore. That is just because there's no monoculture. Now everybody has access to everything, and Gen Z was the first one to embrace that. So people don't stand out as hipsters as much now in this generation as they did as millennials, which is how you get people like Adam Driver, who, you know,
he's definitely a millennial. Yeah, he's like 40.
Yes, yeah, and he takes stuff like the car commercial. Cookie Puss. Is it Cookie Puss? Is that who it is?
Yeah. The thing about that is that I relate to Ben Stiller very much in this whole thing of like that's not yours. Like, you don't know what that is. And then he didn't even do it right, you know, because he was doing the impression and then it was just like crickets. And then there's another scene where Adam Driver says, well, art belongs to everyone. And like, if I want to take this is like plagiarism and AI now. But anyway, it's like, I can take this and just make it mine. And it's all free. It's all like out there. And Ben Stiller is like, no, because he's a purist. And he is, I don't know, Ben Stiller to me feels more Gen X than millennial.
Yes.
So there's the Gen X thing is different. But if we're talking about just like wanting things to be right and like wanting to appreciate something and not like bastardize it. You know what I mean? Through reinvention. There's like this, like, don't touch my stuff mentality and like ruin it with your fingertips.
Right. But the ownership that Josh takes over that stuff is already false. Like, you know, that was a commercial for everybody when he was younger, and he grew up with it. He has nostalgia for it. And I considered this when I was taking my notes. I was like, what do I do on my podcast? I talk about movies that came out a lot of the time before I was born, and a lot of movie podcasts do the same thing. And when we do that, some people have relationships with movies. Some people grew up with them. They take more ownership over them, but they never belonged to you. They play a role in your life. And I think that's why people get so upset and so fired up about movie opinions and media, right? Media, especially in newer generations, it is so saturated that Gen Z, we grab onto everything. We have everything, all the knowledge, all the styles. If I wanted to dress tomorrow I was going to a freaking David Matthews concert, I could just be like, yes,
Matthews.
This is my style. Whatever.
Dave, Jeff.
The Cookie Puss. It's like, you take ownership over it, and it's like, but it was never yours either. Like, and I think Ben Stiller's character is a purist to his detriment. And there's a middle ground that they just can't meet on, I think.
Okay, I would also say this, and this is maybe something that we can both relate to because we both have podcasts and because we're both creative people who actually do things. You know, we're not like creative where we just like sit around and say, I really should start a podcast. No offense to anybody who is saying that. Probably just lost everyone. So in my solo episodes, we were just talking about this. Something that brings me great joy is when I choose a film to interweave my voice over scores or over like, and take lines from movies that I love and like impose them as if I'm part. And when I hear it back, it's just, there's so much satisfaction in just the merge of something that I love and being a part of it. Okay. But I don't feel that I'm like trying to create something new, or I'm not hung up on a impetus to make something original. I'm content in the fact that I'm like scrapbooking, which is kind of like Tarantino-esque, where he's just like, yeah, I plagiarize and I steal all the things that I love, and then I make this thing, and it's kind of like a collage of sorts, but it feels sort of like you're doing it in honor of, rather than being stuck up on this idea that like, no, I'm making this. It's different. It's unique. I don't care about that at all. But I don't know if that's also millennial to like not care.
Well, I mean, we contribute to the discourse of these films and we pay homage to them. And that's a way of defining them even decades after their release. Like how every generation perceives a film is maybe just as important as any previous generation's acceptance of it or rejection of it. As it's redefined, reappraised. It's important, I would say. What we do is important, Amy.
Okay, but Jeff, what annoys you about it though? What about this is bad? Like what about this whole thing that we're talking about, this aspect of the hipsters, or what about it sort of rubs you the wrong way or feels disingenuous? Or does it?
What is like grabbing onto your own detriment, like investing too much?
Okay.
Well, I think that saying that there is a correct way to do it is inherently just
Boomer.
Misaligning yourself. Because, okay, there's another great scene in While We're Young where Ben Stiller actually confronts Adam Driver. I'm using the actors' names. I know the characters. They're in there somewhere, but
I know. It's okay.
They do it at a honoring ceremony for Ben Stiller's father-in-law. And
Charles Grodin.
Yes. And he is a old school documentarian. You get the sense that he's kind of like a Ken Burns type of character. And he represents like basically the foundation that both of them built their own art form on top of. So you've got him, and in his speech, he's like, we never sought to make movies about ourselves. We sought to point the camera and let the world reveal itself. And then you got
like Herzog. That's Herzog's philosophy.
Yes.
Like we're just going to watch it and I don't need to be in it.
Well, Herzog usually is in it.
He is. Yeah. I know. Okay, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
There's some of his where it's just like, I don't think about him at all.
Right. But then, okay, if you look at like three tiers of this, you've got at the top, the original documentary, kind of like cinema verite. Then you have Ben Stiller in the middle. And he believes in this purist way of telling stories. But when you look at the footage he's reviewing, he is in it as well. He has shot himself in interviews and talking to his subjects and everything. So he has inserted himself, and he lets us know
adaptation.
Yes. Yeah. That it is important for him to do that. And now at the bottom, you have Adam Driver, the new way of doing it, where it is all content and it is based on yourself, and the subject is secondary to how much it entertains you. And everybody's like, Ben Stiller's like, why can't you tell the story honestly? And he's like, well, it's more entertaining this way. And that is a genuine thing that we have to confront in society and in media right now as well, is that content and engagement is prioritized over like what is truth and honesty, which are subjective to begin with. So I think that is where those are what rubs me the wrong way is that when you take full ownership, Adam Driver becomes like everything is for everybody. And I'm taking it all for myself. That's where the line is. I'm taking it all for myself.
And the lying, like the Brady Corbet character, you know, the whole thing where he's like, you already knew this, and this was in Afghanistan, and there's all this pretense as well.
Yes.
That he just can't handle, because obviously his documentary is it's so sincere that it's dull. But it's kind of like that I mean, this is really such the argument against AI and plagiarism, because I'm in grad school, you're in grad school, right? We're both dealing with this, and it wasn't present years and years ago in any way at all. And then there's all these journalists that are like, how should we use this? You know, people are not. Anyway, so it's that same, I feel like it's a similar argument where it's like, are we valuing truth? Are we valuing information? Are we valuing that, like, people who use ChatGPT for papers write a better paper than they could have ever written. And maybe like if you didn't know that it would be a great paper. But now that you do, it's not. I don't know how to reconcile all that.
It's people saying that AI is a tool, which is like a very, very limited perspective of looking at it. Like the way that AI is being used right now is actually like handicapping society and making people less creative. And it's cool. And While We're Young leaves it open-ended. The second shot of the film is of a baby. And I think the second to last shot of the film is like a baby using a smartphone.
I know.
And it's like, here we go again kind of thing. Like, what is this next generation going to be? It has a very cynical idea. But the thing about Josh's arc in While We're Young is that he just can't bring himself to be selfish in the same way as Adam Driver. Even though he wants the success that it has brought Adam Driver, he just can't do it. He and his wife, they love each other genuinely. They're kind of at a stale place in their lives, but they rekindle it. They renew their vows at the end of the movie. And Adam Driver ends up divorced by the end of it. Like, it's like, what do you want more? Do you want success by making your content, your media about yourself? That's all your life becomes is just content for everybody. It's Adam Driver says all of the stuff that I'm taking is for everybody. His life becomes that as well. He doesn't like, there's nothing left. It's just thin, stupid bullshit.
Exactly. This is why, I mean, I wasn't thinking of it at the time, but honestly, adaptation is the pinnacle of this. It's this entire thing that we're talking about where it's like, a writer is inserting themselves into their material, but it's because he's so desperate to understand it. But at least in Kaufman's thing, there is this genuine aversion to ruining the original material. I mean, he's so afraid of like tarnishing it, but he can't see, and he tries to take himself out, and then he seems like he can't. And it's this whole psychological thing, but at least in that one, I feel like the intention is meaningful and like sincere. Versus this, I just don't. While We're Young and Frances Ha, it's very, very hard for me to feel like they have that kind of like, I don't know how to say it other than sincerity or like genuine care for what they're doing. I think as an art form.
Yeah, it's reverence in adaptation.
Thank you.
I think. Yeah. He it's like sacred text to
You're
him.
Right.
Where
You're right.
I think the crux of both Frances Ha and While We're Young is that like all text is basically as sacred as everything else, and that it's sort of like
not at all.
Right. It's like an anti-nihilist kind of movie. Like nothing really has meaning except how you can apply it in your own life. I mean, Frances Ha, she's talking philosophically. She's saying, I read books, and she makes it very known that she reads books. It's very important that people recognize.
Right. No, I read. Sophie doesn't read. I read way more than her.
Right. And you see how she applies it in her own life. She does it in order to feel like she has some sort
superior
of status. Yeah. Pretty much.
Right.
That's what people do with, I mean, that's what hipsters would do. They prop themselves up based on their trends and how big their mustache was and that kind of stuff.
But don't you think it's more like honorable to have like a almost begrudging intelligence where you're like, yes, I read books. Like, unfortunately, I have like this like desire to create, and it's a pain in the ass, and I wish I didn't have it. For some reason, I just respect
the tortured artist kind of trope. Is that what you're going for?
Not tortured in like a biopic way. Not like tortured like where they ruin everybody's lives and like are like drug addicts. I'm talking about like a person who is like, let me think of what this is. I'm trying to think of a good example of someone where they're like, I want to do this in the right way. I care about this very much, but I'm not going to get up on a pedestal or a soapbox ever about it because that would like diminish the thing itself.
Because who am I?
And this isn't about me.
Yeah, who am I to do that? This thing exists on its own.
And it doesn't need me, but like I'm here for it. There's something about like humility maybe that I'm trying to get at.
Humility in the media field is like a freaking myth, Amy. I mean, like
that is what I want, though. That is what I admire. I admire humility in artists more than probably any other trait, even maybe more than passion.
Yes. Well, Okay. I made a note of this.
Go for it.
Artists who does it matter to you if an artist refers to themselves as an artist? Do you think a little bit less of an artist who has to call themselves an artist, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What about a hipster?
Psychoanalyze this.
What about a hipster who calls himself a hipster? What about on the Times when they say to Adam Driver's character, "Are you a hipster?" And he has, Amy, it's like a Jesus moment. Like, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Well, you say I am." "Well, I wear tight pants and I'm of a certain age." Like even by not admitting it about yourself, you are. And because they have that forward knowledge, they're like, if I use humility, if I project humility anyway, then I can come across like for most of the movie, Josh believes that Adam Driver's character is his friend, because he's just such a good manipulator.
Okay, but I'm not talking about like humble brags, Jeff. I'm not talking about like people who are like, "Oh yeah, like I'm just here for the art." I'm talking about Charlie Kaufman. I'm talking about like a sweaty, overweight mess who is like sitting at their typewriter with writer's block, who wants a muffin and is like, "Oh, I wish I didn't care so much about doing this, but I care more about this than anything in the world." And I refuse to like him going to the McKee conference, the writers conference. It's like so painful to him because he's like, "Oh my God, what have I become?" Like that is but I can't even think of another movie that has that type of thing. I'm trying to think of like a character where I admire, and it's like an artist who is kind of begrudging, but is, I don't know, passionate still.
I think of Barton Fink, and it is not exactly what you're talking about, but it is like...
That's a good example, though.
I want to portray a certain person who I actually don't relate to, but I can make people think that I relate to, like the life of the mind, that kind of stuff. But what you're saying about the artist who is a slave to their work, that's kind of what Josh thinks he is in While We're Young.
But he's not.
But he thinks he is, Amy. He has worked on the same documentary for 8 years. And what if he's just not good at it? And that's why he has to blame the world. And Frances, she has the capacity to become that artist who focuses on dance and choreography, and whether she succeeds in it or not is like a byproduct of actually dedicating her life to it. That's why it's like sort of a happy ending.
Yeah, but this is what we were talking about prior to recording. We were like, what if you're really good at something that you don't like? Or conversely, what if you're really bad at something that you really want to do? And that is true for, maybe that is the most relatable piece of these movies. That sometimes you're not talented at your passion, and you would have to sort of compromise your superiority in order to attain some form of financial and or like commercial success, because he has to go to that pitch. He doesn't want to ask his father-in-law for anything. He's so stubborn and arrogant, but it's like, dude, you are not good enough to not do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of where I'm getting at here. Maybe what I don't like is the lack of self-awareness.
Do you feel like
in both of them,
the characters are not self-aware or the movies are not self-aware?
Ooh.
Both.
Okay, do you think that the movies are loving towards their characters, or do you think they're judgmental?
I mean, they could be both. I don't think either movie presents its characters as like everything they're doing is like so sad that they can't get success out of it. Because that's what I said when I rewatched Frances Ha this time around, and she tears into Sophie in the bathroom and says, "Don't treat me like your 3-hour brunch friend." I'm like, I don't think she's in the right for lashing out. And I think both movies present characters lashing out because they will not confront something
reality.
Else. Yes. Yeah. The world that they live in. So I think they're judgmental, but I think they both present a way for their characters to sort of come to peace internally with what they're struggling with. I think they're both very loving, I would say. Yeah.
I think they're both very loving, and they're both not excusing the behavior, but there is this sense of like, I don't know, I don't feel necessarily that anybody is confronted in a way that produces an epiphany. Like, neither movie to me has catharsis of any kind.
I think that's a very pointed decision, especially in While We're Young, because you get a scene where Josh confronts, what is Adam Driver's character's name? I just got Jamie. It's Jamie. Okay.
Jamie and
Darcy.
Darcy.
Yeah. So Josh confronts Jamie but one-on-one by themselves. And that is a scene that's like confronting the villain. Like, I know, I see through you. But the scene directly following it, he tries to tattle on him, and it's not cathartic at all because...
And it doesn't work, and he's like, I'm not going to get anything I need out of this.
Yes, yeah, it's like blue balls, you know? It's,
right.
He's just... His father-in-law is like, I don't really think it's that big of a deal, actually. And
nobody cares, actually, either, about anything that you're saying, whether it's true or not. No one cares.
And I think the thing about Frances and Frances Ha is that her catharsis, or... The resolution to her internal conflict comes from recognizing that Sophie, who is projecting success from the distance...
In Japan.
Yeah, in Japan on their travel blog, Barf is
for her mom. She's like, well, I can't be honest because my mom reads it.
Right, yeah. But like, even if she didn't, would she really be honest? It's like the beginning of social media and the avatars and that kind of stuff. But she understands through sort of a screenwriting lazy thing that they were in the same place at the same time and Sophie was already drunk. But she understands that Sophie is actually not happy, or she is to some extent putting on a facade in the same way that Frances is. And Frances stops projecting onto Sophie all this success and decides to sort of take accountability for herself, because I think it hurts her to see Sophie struggling like that. Like, she wanted Sophie to lean on her. And then when Sophie finally does, she's like, well, I can't believe I hoped for this. Like, this, I love this person, and it makes me sad that they're sad, kind of.
Yeah, but see, it's very conflicting because the scene where she goes to the dorm, there's like a great line there before that where she's like talking about Walden's pond, and the girl's like, we have a pond. There's so many lines like that are so funny. And especially the parts that remind me of Girls are when she's like conversing with her parents and walking in the woods. That's very like Hannah. Lena Dunham stuff. But anyway, the scene where they're like in bed in the dorm and Sophie is kind of falling apart and she's like confessing that it's not all that shit's cracked up to be, and the guy's name is Patch, which is like Chet, like those names of dudes. And then it's like, oh, maybe she doesn't want this for Sophie. But in the morning when she leaves, she chases her car as if she's like completely betrayed. You know, she's like, Sophie. And it's, again, like, it's very romantic relationship adjacent to me. It's like very dramatic, but obviously Sophie is not nearly the person that Frances thinks she is. And there's a lot of idealization and projection going on. So maybe at the conclusion, we can hope that she sees her differently.
Yeah, I think she sees her as multifaceted, and she kind of wants to fill in some of those gaps in the time that they haven't spent together. I think she just honestly just wants more time with her friend, and being with your friend at any point, you especially somebody you used to spend a lot of time with, reminds you of how much you miss them. And it reminds you of who you were too when you were younger, and maybe some of your aimlessness felt a little bit more excused.
That's kind of the scene in While We're Young, though, where they're like, remember when we used to like each other more and have different conversations? I mean, I feel like that's just a universal, I don't know, like everybody arrives at that eventually, no matter what they do. They're like sitting on the steps watching the shaman get on his
on his
Vespa.
Motorcycle, or his Vespa with some.
And then you're like, what happened to us? Like, we used to be whatever, and now you're having to like implement all these external factors to make your life interesting when it used to just be interesting.
And the older you get, the more responsibilities you have to take on, and a lot of the time, nobody wants to be responsible for their bills or for their meals, especially if they had parents who provided that for them throughout their lives. And you see Frances's relationship with her parents. It is a very I remember when I was in college and I would come home for a brief amount of time, and I would...
That montage.
Yeah, I would fall back into that, and then I would go back to my life, and sometimes it would hurt a lot because I felt like I wasn't a fully formed person yet. But here I am at 27, and I I still kind of feel I just went back to school. Like I did 5 years off between my undergrad and grad school. And I feel kind of aimless right now in a similar way. And I always feel like talking to my parents recenters me a lot of the time.
With going home,
Going home. And I think it's really appropriate that Francis's parents are literally on the opposite side of the country from her.
know.
They're in California. Like,
yeah.
It's all so appropriate.
And it's so Christmassy and it's so cozy. I do love that whole montage. Baumbach does that very well with the plane, the escalator, standing at the top of the escalator in the airport ends. And it does give you this like kind of tight ache sense.
Yeah.
But it's also, the thing I would say is inspirational. If I'm being generous about Frances, what I do find inspirational, and maybe this is not intentional, is like when she gets news that's like very serious, like, oh, you're not going to be in the company, or like, oh, you don't have a job. She's like, okay. I would like, there's so many scenes where I was like, I would be freaking out.
Yeah.
And I would be like, she's like, oh, maybe like, I don't know if I'll be able to pay the full rent. I'm like, what? Like, but is that immaturity or maturity? I mean, honestly, I was like, maybe it's not great to freak out about everything. Maybe we need more, I don't know, whatever that she's like when she dances, it's like she's got this like flow, or like everything's going to be okay.
It's generally not good to freak out about things, especially more often than not. The thing about Frances is, that's my psychoanalytical opinion.
I'm going to get off the couch. Yeah. Amy.
But that, the ending of Frances Hall is just like, you roll with the punches. Your whole name doesn't fit in your mailbox. That's what she does. I admire that in a person. The ability
so do I.
To, I took my Myers-Briggs personality test before this episode, Amy, so that I wouldn't have to take it live for
30 minutes.
There were questions about stress, and I don't handle stress well. I really don't.
Neither do I.
Yeah, okay.
It's the J, okay.
Yeah, that's that's the one.
That's the culprit.
Right. So I admire that in a person who knows, like, it's just another thing. And there's always going to be stress. There's always going to be the next bill. Like, that is something you can always rely on, is that if you want water, you got to pay for it month after month. Same with electricity. I mean, like.
But do you associate that with adulthood is what I'm saying? Like, do you feel like it's childlike to be rolling with the punches? Or do you think it's actually the opposite? Because I feel like people look down on Frances for behaving that way when actually it's kind of admirable.
I admire it. I think it's more of a mature thing, probably, or it can be used that way. It just depends on, like, it's not that she doesn't care about it. It's that she finds a way to do it. And she always does. Like, if she, like, her roommates in New York, the two boys, it's also so fitting that they are just kind of sitting on their parents' money, like their inheritance. Yeah. They don't have to worry about rent. It's the same as, like, hipsters inheriting all knowledge and all fashion and everything. Trust fund.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they're just sitting on it. They're totally comfortable. Very appropriate foil to Frances. And she grows as a person by the end of the movie. You don't get, I mean, they're side characters, but you don't get a sense that they have a lot of motivation to improve their status, because they're totally content just sitting at where they are.
Right. So then they're not mature either. I mean, the whole thing is like, maybe it's like Baumbach is constantly asking, what is maturity? Because Marriage Story is the same thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how are adults supposed to behave? Jay Kelly is all about, like, okay, I'm screwed up as a person, as an adult. I'm like he's not at the end of his life, but the movie feels like a eulogy for some reason, even though George Clooney is like 60 or whatever. But anyway, it's a very like, oh, well, do I need to like look at the past and like take account of all my life and all my memories and my actions in order to figure out how to live? Or because I feel like it's just this like search of like, where is that sweet spot of how to behave as a functioning, responsible person while still being creative?
Yeah, even White Noise is like that. Like with the parents, they have their own, like Greta Gerwig's character has this fear of death, and she's been taking a pill in order to suppress her fear. It's like that stuff is, he's good at showing parents as people and generationally how that affects. That's all of While We're Young, is how it's not parenting, but it's how you pass down medium and storytelling and documentary specifically generation to generation. Frances Ha is like, when you're trying to, you feel like everything is scrambled and you're looking for something to grab onto. And a lot of the time that stuff is there. It's internal. You know the right things. You know what's good for yourself. Like people know themselves better than anybody. I think if you just take the time to ask yourself questions about like, oh, why am I sad? Oh, it's because I drink all the time and I eat like crap and I don't exercise and I don't sleep. Maybe that has something to do with it. It's like,
and I edit all day long.
I spend all day at this desk editing podcasts over which I take no ownership because they're about things that I didn't make. Yeah.
That's right. Begrudging.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right. I think that there is, I guess my frustration is that it isn't like Kaufman, where I feel like Kaufman actually finds solutions. I don't feel, but that's how I am, though.
You think
I
Kaufman
always want
finds
the
solutions?
I do. I think adaptation is a fantastic ending.
Yeah.
He integrates Donald into himself.
Yeah.
Like Donald has to, well, okay, that's a major spoil, but I'm just saying the alter ego is integrated into the ego, and he is willing to be in love. He finishes the book. It is what he wanted it to be. And then it ends on a note of contentment and happy together. I mean, it's really very hopeful to me, but this is like this is in my top.
No, it is. Adaptation, definitely. It feels that might be the most optimistic of Kaufman's work, probably.
Yeah.
And I agree. Yeah. I think it's a great ending. And it just kind of says, like, don't listen to people telling you what to do. Do the thing you are always going to do anyway. Basically.
That's right. You are what you love, not what loves you.
Yeah, it's great. And I think Frances Ha is more like, hold yourself up. Don't look to other people. Don't project onto other people's solutions to your own problems, because you can empower yourself through identifying what it is you enjoy, what it is you want to keep doing throughout your life. And it's art. I think Josh in While We're Young is empowered by embracing his status, by loving his wife, by renewing their vows, and by humbling himself and taking feedback for his, by all means, probably awful documentary that maybe he will release someday.
It's like I keep thinking of like Amadeus. Like Amadeus is about Mozart and he's a genius and it's so effortless and he just loves his life. Like in that movie, it's like he is a genius and he does what he wants, but he has joy. Like that's the other part of this that is absent from the mumblecore, joy. Like I know that people could look at Frances Ha like Dancing in the Street and say it's like joyous, but to me it's not quite the depth that I want to feel. And maybe that's just me though. Well, like my interpretation of it. I understand that. I think what we see Frances take joy from, her highs earlier in the movie are really high, and a lot of them are like needle drops. When she's running in the street to David Bowie, Modern Love, I feel so good, and all she's doing is going home. And then she gets home, and the music stops. It's a hard cut, and I'm like, that was just a song that she enjoyed listening to. That wasn't like contentment with her life. It was just a moment. Versus you don't need the filmic artifice whenever she's dancing, because there's no like needle drop there. It's all in her head, and it's not exactly joy, but it is like purpose. It's focus. It is what she's able to tune into, which I think is what she was missing. She was grasping at everything. She just needed to tune in. She was like flipping radio stations. It was all fuzz, and she finally found something coming in clear. It kind of reminds me of like, what's her name in Garden State? Sam, Natalie Portman.
Is she the manic pixie dream girl in Garden State?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But it's very similar in the sense that like she's so quirky and so idiosyncratic and has all these weird ways about her. But in the end, it's like an acceptance of self is like the goal. And she realizes it from being around others. I mean, that is... Everybody's down on Garden State, but I mean, it is kind of similar, okay?
Sure,
except for it's got Coldplay. But I mean, it's a very similar, like, all these movies which are classified as that. They are all kind of trying to grapple with the same things. And I'm not even, maybe I'm harsher on them because I feel like I'm creative, so maybe I'm just like, I don't know. I'm more scathing than I would be like on a horror film. I'm way more forgiving of horror films than anything else. And it's because I have no talent. Or, you know what I mean? I have no contribution. So I'm amazed. I'm in like awe.
So you think Frances Ha is just too understated for you to grab on, to channel anything from? Is that?
I think so.
Okay.
It's a lot. I mean, but that's kind of what mumblecore is, right? Isn't that what it is? It's on like a, how would you describe that? Like a wavelength that's just chill.
Yeah, I think it tries to be a little more hyper-realistic. I think it's more aware of the artifice of film, and it doesn't, like, if you do have something like a needle drop, there is an intention behind it. It's not just like a euphoric thing. Like, I'm watching a movie and I'm listening to a song at the same time. Like, holy crap, I'm so glad I bought that ticket. It's like, no, I think there's always something. I think Frances Ha specifically, it always serves a very specific purpose, and it's her, The movie's named after her. While We're Young is a little more, I think While We're Young is like so on the nose, but it also, like, I just love what it's doing with the generational and the inheritance of media. And like, I don't know if there's a way to do it that's like, I think sometimes you just have to go straight for it. And I think it does.
I was going to say too, that it's also that the stakes aren't major. Like both of them have that in common. They're kind of small stakes. Oh, yeah. Small-ish stakes, small-ish problems, but it's relatable in that way, and it's giving a commentary on where we're at too. I mean, they're kind of nice little benchmarks for like 2012, 2014. Like you're saying, it's like these movies are time capsules buried in a backyard, and if you dig them up, you could be like, oh yeah, that's how it was in that day. That's how hipsters were in 2012. Like that's where the culture was. A lot of times movies come out like that where you can tell like this is of that time specifically. And maybe it won't be as successful later on when we've like moved on from remembering these particular nuances. I
think so. But I also think it's important that they show these crises of identity at different stages in life. I think like midlife crisis, that's like a trope. That's like a thing people have talked about for a long time. But the reality is, like, it could just happen at any point. And as long as you become internally imbalanced, the scales can tip far enough that you can just, like, snap one day and be like, what am I doing with my life? And then start going to hip-hop classes and, like, tripping on ayahuasca. Like, yeah. It could happen. It could happen to you. That's what is being said, ultimately. I think.
Open the door, question mark? Okay, so, Jeff, the hard ticket question.
Yes.
Which one would you choose?
Which one would I choose? So the question about Hard Ticket, my podcast, is that you go to the movies and you're expecting to see both movies back to back, but they're playing at the same time. So now you have a hard ticket to choose between the two. It's not necessarily which one is better. It's not necessarily like which one it's dealer's choice.
Which one do you want? Yeah, right. Now that we've done all this analysis for an hour straight and we've contemplated, I'm pretty sure I know what you'd do, but which one would you do just for?
To be completely honest, Amy, I think I want to rewatch While We're Young. I think that's going to be my hard ticket.
Mine is definitely Frances Ha. So again, we are divided. Whoa. Like Marnie and
Vertigo.
Marnie and Vertigo.
That's true. Yes, everybody should listen to Amy's guest episode on Hard Ticket.
Oh, so great.
when Marnie had vertigo, it's a personal favorite of mine.
I had so much fun. I was showing it we have like a friend in town right now, and I was showing, and he was like, what is that intro? And I was like, isn't it glorious?
It's the best part. It's all downhill after the intro.
And it's the same thing. See, we're kind of fusing. This is very meta. Because I also feel that is part of what I'm saying. Like me being on your show, you being on my show is that creative fusion where you feel like there's something special about taking elements that are yours and then mine and putting them together. And it's not necessarily so important to be like, well, this is art. It's just the sensation of that sort of like inspirational collaboration. And maybe that's something that's missing from these movies too, is that they are so individual. there isn't a, like, even in her choreography, it still is her, you know, even though it is kind of collaborative. When I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't get that sense of like people coming together. And that's certainly absent from While We're Young, but I feel like that's a yearning to like want that.
Yeah, I think if they're saying something about that, they're saying that all art is pretty much channeled through an artist, even in collaborative mediums, especially Frances Ha, because it is all her choreography, and we actually do get to see it. And you could probably look at it and interpret it based on what we've seen throughout the film. You know, if you understand interpretive dance, which I never really. Right. I mean, hey, more power to you, but no, I think
not your forte.
I think it's not.
Not my tempo.
I haven't done that personally. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say that there's. Obviously, I'm a lot more positive on these movies than you. I don't think there's something missing necessarily. I just think there's something presented in a different way from the kind of movies that you prefer.
And I think the reason I would rewatch Frances Ha is I think there's a Criterion edition of this, and it's got commentary, and like I would be very interested in that. Like, especially since, I mean, this is like, were they dating at the time? Or they were about to be?
I think they might have met and started dating on that set.
Well, that's an interesting dynamic, obviously. I mean, to have like a couple writing a movie together, one of them directs it, one of them stars in it, but they write it together. That is very interesting to me. And then that also puts like a personal stamp that isn't just individual. It's like them together.
Yeah.
So I would watch it again just to hear like, oh, we did this scene because blah, 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 blah. I think that would probably enrich it a lot better than it is on its own for me.
That's true. Yeah, I'd be interested in that as well. I think another reason why I choose While We're Young is because it really doesn't get talked about a lot. And it's addressing very head on a lot of conversation. I'm in a journalism master's program. We talk about media and the state of where everything is. I like we touched on AI a little bit earlier, but I have that conversation every freaking day, Amy.
So do I, because I'm in clinical mental health counseling, but everything is like, so they just want people to be, it's not, I don't know, it's not original necessarily. It's just like, can you please think for yourself? Like, can you try to think? Are you interested in thinking? Can you like sit in something without looking it up for 5 minutes, for 1 minute? So there's just like this tremendous, I have a tremendous awareness of apathy and laziness.
Yes.
That is like, well, it's not cheating because I look things up all day, and looking something up isn't the equivalent. And it's like, but you're not thinking.
Yeah.
You're not like exercising your brain. And so that's on my mind constantly.
Yeah, I was just at the International Journalism Conference as well, and half of the panels were about AI and how it's being integrated into workforces. I've been in lecture classes where I've seen people copy from ChatGPT and then run their copy through an AI personify AI. Like, they're like, this AI
Jeff,
will make it sound less like AI, and that way,
Jeff, please.
It's true, Amy. You can't.
Oh my God.
We're like Cornelia and Josh looking at the baby with the smartphone at the end of While We're Young. Which, hey, if you're gonna give a sequel to one of these movies, make it While We're Still Young, and now Josh has finished his documentary, or the prequel, While We're Younger.
While We're Old, though. It could be either way. You could do a trilogy.
Right. Yeah, it's like Before Sunrise. Yeah. I don't think anybody's really asking for this, but I'm just going to put it out there and see if it takes.
But when you hear that, Jeff, I know that this is like way off, but when you're at this conference and you're hearing this, and it's like, well, we're going to get AI that makes it sound less AI. Does your heart melt? Are you sad? Are you hopeless? Are you like, oh, it's not that bad? I mean, what is your personal feeling or response to this information?
I think I was wounded by the progression of technology years ago, and there's now...
You're jaded.
Yes, there's like a scab there that...
Okay.
I'm a cynical guy, Amy. I don't know if you know that about me, but with the state of technology, like, if there's shortcuts, if there's loopholes, if there's a cheaper way to do it in America, that's how we're going to do it.
So the Adam Drivers of the world are just taking over, is what you're saying, and so we're just like, gonna have to. Can you like embrace it without accepting it though? Like, is there a way to be like, I don't know. It is such a difficult thing. That's why I feel like Ben Stiller most of the time, where it's just like, how do I don't want to be like him, like you're describing, where it's like only one way. But then at the same time, how do you go with it without going with it and getting lost?
Yeah, no, it's Pandora's box. And journalists have justified it by saying, like, now that technology is there to streamline processes, it's irresponsible not to use it. Like, there's so many different ways to spin it. And like there processes, information filtering, as long as you have like a person checking everything, like maybe I could see how it functions in a work like process. But I just, that's not exactly what it's being used for. It's being used for, like, every news outlet basically has AI writing articles. And the crazy thing is that audiences might actually perceive them as more objective and more factual.
That's what I'm saying. They might know. The scariest thing is that they might perceive them as more human than a human.
Especially in things like sports writing, where like you're afraid that the actual writer might let their biases filter in. Like there's been research that suggests that audiences are perceptive to it, which that's just where we're at, Amy. That's just where we're at. Like,
okay. I mean, like, are we real right now? I mean, we are, but like, could there be podcasts where there's two people talking and they're not, and they're just taking in information about, like, they're talking about, like, let's make a podcast about Frances Ha, and while we're young, we're gonna pull from all the podcasts, resources, and then we're going to like have a projection of two people. And that's like more valuable than what you and I just did. Like, that is frightening, Jeff.
I don't believe it's more valuable, no, but I do believe it's already out there. I think and that goes into like, what are we doing, saying new things about these movies? Like, are we saying anything new at all versus a podcast? It's like, we at least have opinions, and I think I like hearing other people's opinions because they can inform my own, but AI can't have opinions. I mean, it regurgitates information right now.
It also has no soul. Like the whole thing of like people going to ChatGPT for relationships or going for therapy. The human connection of someone who's like a real person with real feelings is valid, and it is irreplaceable, even though the feeling or the interpretation of the data feels good. It's like, there is no soul. There is no, like, this is completely narcissistically catered to you, and it's, anyway. Okay. Jeff, what are your three films for your watch this list? Because I could talk to you about this forever.
Yes. Yeah.
What are they? I don't know them. So this is going to be totally, I'm ready.
Okay. So the first film that I would recommend for people who like Frances Ha would be The Worst Person in the World.
Yeah.
Trier. French film by Joachim Trier.
Is it French?
Yeah, it's French, right?
I thought it was like he's from like Denmark or something, or like Danish or
Swedish. Yeah, I could be totally wrong about that.
I think he's Swedish.
Anyways, let's not look it up. Let's just try to remember instead of looking it up. So, Worst Person in the World, great movie. Came out, I think, 23. I'm pretty sure is when that came out. It again also it's about a young woman who kind of is grasping at trying to find her place in the world, and there are some people who have an idea of what it should be, but it's great, really great movie.
Okay.
Number 2. I think this sort of updates some of the Frances Ha themes for Gen Z. I'm talking about Cha Cha Real Smooth, Cooper Raiff movie from a few years ago. Features Dakota Johnson as well. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. I think he is a college grad, like recent college grad, trying to figure out what to do next. And it's good. It's a little more palatable, I would say, probably. I think a lot of people would recommend Clerks based on Frances Ha because of the black and white, new filmmaker, listlessness. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to recommend Petite Maman. That is a French film. And it's about
you saved yourself.
two young girls who develop a friendship, but one of them is actually the other's mother, and there's some sort of time travel stuff happening in there.
Like when Marnie was there. What?
It is very similar to when Marnie was there, but
okay,
dealing.
This is full circle.
Yeah, if you want to cry, Amy, feel free to watch it. It's very sensitive, very sweet, tender movie. Love it. Love that movie. But that's my 3 for Watch This List.
Ah, yes. We've done the hard ticket and we've done the Watch This List. Jeff, this has been just an absolute pleasure and a joy. I don't think I've ever been this animated on any of my podcasts. So I just think that this was the perfect thing to do, like the perfect film to do for you and I. And I really am glad that you kind of inspired a second watch, because I literally would have given up on this film forever. And now I'm not so bad.
Okay, there's a little improvement there. There's a little bit.
I'm like Francis, I can only improve so much.
Yeah, incrementally.
Incremental.
I appreciate that. Thank you for suffering through them, Amy. I appreciate it. I had a great time revisiting both of these. So.
Oh yeah, well that's all that matters. The guest is of utmost. Okay, now before we go, what are you doing? What are you interested up to? Tell me what's coming.
Yes.
And then
yeah. So Tristan and I, we have a podcast, Hard Ticket. We talk about 2 movies that are similar in some way, be it thematically or we sometimes we invent the similarities, but it's intertext, so it's a lot of fun.
They've got blurbs. Yeah. They've got little blurbs.
This episode is actually coming out the day before our 50th matchup, and to celebrate, we're putting Citizen Kane up against The Room. So,
oh my gosh,
the best movie ever made and the worst movie ever made. It's going to be...
My brain just exploded. Have you actually recorded it yet?
No, we have not. But
oh my gosh,
yeah, we've got time. I'll let you know how it goes, Amy, and tune in to find out.
Yeah, that is a crazy. That's like the matchup of the century. I wouldn't even think to put those things, and that is such like trying to get 2 parts of your brain together at the same time, like high cinema and whatever The Room is. I don't even know if there's a characterization there.
Yeah, no, it's about as intellectual as making 2 dolls kiss each other. It's thanks to my co-host Tristan for thinking of that one. He really wants to do this one, so it's going to be a blast.
The what is Tristan? The ISTP or whatever he is. INTP and and you said, okay, so ENFJ, right?
Yes, ENFJ.
We didn't actually reveal.
Yeah, okay. that is I'm the protagonist, so says I'm right there on the introvert extrovert line, but I guess I'm 53% an extrovert. It's all very clinical. It's all very Zoomer also. It's a little too balanced for my liking. I am definitely an I, so that's I don't know, 90-10. But I appreciate you very much, Jeff, for doing all this stuff, and I think this is going to be very enjoyable. Everybody already loves Francis Ha anyway, so you've got that bias going for you. I'm on the right side of history. Amy. The right side of history. No, I think there's a good amount of vitriol for it, personally. People who hate the hipster lifestyle. Well, my letterbox is full of praise. It's all 5-star, 4.5 Great taste.
Star.
Great taste on your letterbox. Gonna have to fire all my friends. Thank you, Miss Jeff, and we'll see you at the movies. Bye.